I was elected as a democratic socialist, and I will govern as a democratic socialist. I will not abandon my principles for fear of being deemed radical.
So I said, like, Zohran's like the hangover of wokeism. Nancy is the hangover of TDS. She reminds me of the, like, I don't know, this might be too elitist, but if you belong at a co-op meeting or a condo meeting, she's one of the elderly tenants who comes in and just complains that the kids are making all this noise. She's at her wit's end. But this is what an addiction to one idea gets you.
No one ever wonder what happens when a city drifts into political chaos in slow motion. New York has been getting a front row seat, featuring none other than Zohran Mamdani. And just when you think things couldn't get messier, Greg Gutfeld steps in at full throttle to explain exactly what's unfolding. It's like watching someone try to stop a forest fire with a garden hose. Awkward, confusing, and strangely entertaining if you're observing from a safe distance.
2009, Zohran Mamdani, or whatever, the Socialist Democrat nominee for New York City's mayor, identified as Black or African American when he applied to Columbia University. I guess there was no box for trust fund communist douchebag. But it didn't work. He didn't get in. He probably shouldn't have included a referral letter from this lady.
If you're enjoying this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe. It helps more than you think. Now here's the situation. Mamdani arrived with promises as tall as the skyscrapers he claims to protect. Affordable housing? Check. Safer streets? Check. Fixing the subway? Maybe in another universe. But Gutfeld slices through that polished image like a chainsaw through paper, highlighting the massive gap between bold promises and real-world results. And honestly, that gap is hard to ignore.
Democratic socialist Zohran Mamdani has been elected the mayor of New York City. You know, I never thought I'd be reminiscing about the good old days when Son of Sam was my dog walker. I haven't seen this many depressed New Yorkers since it got too chilly for me to wear bike shorts.
Gutfeld isn't known for subtlety, and he doesn't try to be. Subtlety is for people who still believe politics plays nice. He gets straight to the point, calling out what he sees as a city losing money, confidence, and even midtown taxis all at once. It's like watching someone juggle flaming swords blindfolded, except the swords are potholes and crime statistics, and the blindfold is political denial.
Zohran says he doesn't consider himself Black at all. I guess it was that Justin Trudeau kind of Black, where you just wipe it off at the end of the day. But it raises the often ignored question: how can you claim to be oppressed when you know the claim gets preferential treatment? I mean, why would anyone voluntarily choose an identity that supposedly holds you back unless you knew it could actually move you forward? So he saw the grift, using a false disadvantage to actually get ahead.
Meanwhile, Mamdani talks about reform like it's a new artisanal coffee trend. But while the speeches flow smoothly, the streets tell a different story. Crime concerns grow, businesses struggle, subway schedules look more like abstract art than reliable transportation. And no amount of latte foam can smooth over that reality.
Mean? Is it an omen of a woke future or a ghost of a woke past? True, he really is the hangover from a decade of heinous ideas where repeat of criminals are the victims, men can be women, and brain damage is considered a plus. But in this election, the votes cast were over 90% Democrat. That's one-party rule, a monopoly, which means it was a choice between bad and worse because there is no counterpoint to balance against extreme.
This is where Gutfeld thrives. He doesn't just list problems, he frames them as part of a larger performance of incompetence. Every joke lands like the punchline of a sitcom nobody meant to watch. New Yorkers are exhausted. They've heard promises from politicians across every borough, from Times Square to Staten Island. Yet results keep falling short. Gutfeld steps in with surgical precision, though his tools feel more like a chainsaw, a megaphone, and that signature sarcastic eyebrow that somehow cuts through the screen. He dissects Mamdani's record like a classroom experiment, pointing to mounting frustrations, from city mismanagement to the never-ending battle with rats that seem to be winning. And while officials insist everything is under control, Gutfeld's disbelief mirrors what many viewers are thinking.
Mayor for New York City, Zohran Mamdani, has introduced his all-female transition team. At least we think they're female. True, since Zohran won, there have already been a few minor changes to the city. For example, the naked cowboy has already been replaced by the naked goat. And now every play on Broadway.
The humor hits because it isn't abstract. It's grounded in daily life. It's hard to argue when someone stands outside City Hall listing stalled plans and asking how a city famous for Broadway, bagels, and billion-dollar tech giants can struggle with this level of dysfunction. Take housing. Mamdani promised affordability, but progress feels more hopeful than tangible. Buildings rise, complaints rise with them, rents climb like Olympic athletes, and construction never seems to end. Subways stall without warning. Buses feel like they're playing hide and seek. The streets resemble a lesson in chaos theory. And while Mamdani insists everything is under control, Gutfeld highlights the contradictions with sharp, relentless humor. Because when infrastructure fails and leaders stay optimistic, the disconnect becomes impossible to ignore.
If the party feels differently about that, as Jessica says, then they really gotta talk louder about it. Because that's the problem. You guys didn't speak up. You know, you grew this monster because you were too scared to discipline it as it expanded into every facet of our lives. Imagine if you had nipped wokeism in the bud rather than waiting for us to slay it with Trump. The Democratic Party are like parents of a criminal teen who raised him without any discipline or common sense, and then you released him into the wild, i.e. our world, and now we have to deal with it, and now you're going like, yeah, I predict that when he gets the nomination,
Public perception? Complete mess. Supporters argue, change takes time. It sounds reasonable until you realize the city isn't just waiting. It's unraveling. Gutfeld doesn't sugarcoat it. He lays the delays, missteps, and unintended consequences right on the table, mixing disbelief with comedy. And he goes further, pointing out contradictions. Speeches about equity and opportunity contrasted with policies that critics say favor developers while bureaucracy expands. New York is known as a melting pot, a place where chaos can become art. But under Mamdani, some say that art is starting to resemble frustration. Graffiti in subways, rats in restaurants, potholes deep enough to swallow tires. Gutfeld amplifies it all, delivering play-by-play commentary wrapped in razor-sharp sarcasm.
he was lying to get what he wanted. Like when I used to tell women that I love them. He wasn't confused, he was calculating. Mamdani knew that applying while black could be a ticket past the velvet rope of Ivy League admissions. And that was in 2009. Since then, identity politics has exploded into a full-blown access pass for corporations, schools, girls' locker rooms.
What makes the show compelling is the momentum. It's not just one sharp jab, it's a steady barrage. Each policy stumble, each overhyped promise, stacks up like a house of cards. And just when it seems absurd enough, Gutfeld connects the dots, painting a picture of ambition colliding with consequence. He spotlights the irony. A safety forum held amid rising crime concerns. A bold promise fading as quietly as morning fog. The audience laughs, but beneath the humor lies a serious question about governance and accountability.
But it seems Zohran was handpicked. By who? Who knows? We know it wasn't for his resume. He didn't have one. He's a hard-left socialist with no managerial background, a disdain for capitalism and Jews. He's no different than a trust fund protester, except with a PR team and Soros's credit card. He's not even qualified to be my pool boy. Definitely not strong enough to lift me.
The stakes feel bigger than a local political dispute. This becomes a snapshot of how city governance can spiral when execution falls short of vision. Housing initiatives stall. Public safety debates intensify. Infrastructure projects drag on. Gutfeld dissects it all with satirical precision, showing how comedy can expose flaws in ways statistics alone sometimes cannot. It's entertaining, but it also underscores that real people live with these policies every day.
Shocked in the green room that you asked, do you think that Zohran will be searched or frisked before entering the White House? And I thought that's a provocative question, but you raised a good point.
What we were actually talking about in the green room is how much easier it is to change the diaper of a baby girl than a baby. That is legitimately what the talk was.
That's what we were talking about.
So Mamdani has grown up real fast in the first.
At its core, this is a clash between ambition and reality. Idealism meets bureaucracy. Promises meet consequences. Gutfeld positions himself not just as a comedian, but as someone holding up a mirror. Sometimes enthusiasm isn't enough. Even good intentions can unravel without execution. Presented with sharp timing and pointed humor, the critique becomes hard to ignore.
What's his connection to the city? Ask him what he loves most about New York, he'll probably say diversity. The fact that you can dine in Chinatown or Little Italy, then get mugged in 80 different languages. But diversity is not what made New York great. It's one result of the system that enabled it. Capitalism, trade, industry, which attracts people like my natural musk on a hot subway. But for leftists like Zohran, they only see the goals, not the systems. If he had been Christian who celebrated Christmas, he might never ever connect that those gifts under the tree were there because of his parents' hard work. Nope, to him, the free stuff just appears. In this case, Santa is socialism and the taxpayers are the elves.
By the end, it's more than commentary, it's spectacle. Each contradiction builds on the last. Every misstep becomes material. The audience watches ambition collide with outcome, and satire turns civic frustration into entertainment. The picture that emerges is layered. A massive city navigating complex challenges, a politician under scrutiny, and a commentator transforming policy debate into primetime theater. And whether viewers agree or disagree, one thing is certain: the conversation isn't ending anytime soon.